Hi, and thank you for tuning in to the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. This week, we are continuing on in the book of Psalms. We're going to be here for a while as it is a larger book in the Bible. But each day, we're encouraging you to read one chapter, which many chapters are just about a paragraph long, maybe 2, 3. Shouldn't take very long. So really, the goal is not to rush through it, but to meditate on it, to pray about it, and to ask the Lord what He wants to speak to you through it. Then as you tune into these daily doses, we're just giving you a little bit of insight, maybe a question to ponder, something to pray about as you let the Word of God speak to you. Well, today we are going to be reading Psalm chapter 46. I'm actually going to read it in its entirety. As I mentioned earlier, it's a shorter psalm, and then we'll talk for just a moment about it. I am reading, I believe, from the applications, an NLT Application Study Bible. So depending on what Bible version you're reading from, it might be a little bit different, but see if you can follow along. Verse 1 says, God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not fear when earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. Let the oceans roar and foam. Let the mountains tremble as the waters surge. A river brings joy to the city of our God, the sacred home of the Most High. God dwells in that city. It cannot be destroyed. From the very break of day, God will protect it. The nations are in chaos and their kingdoms crumble. God's voice thunders and the earth melts. The Lord of heaven's armies is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress. Come, see the glorious works of the Lord. See how He brings destruction upon the world. He caused wars to end throughout the earth. He breaks the bow and snaps the spear. He burns the shields with fire. Verse 10, be still and know that I am God. I will be honored by every nation. I will be honored throughout the world. The Lord of heaven's armies is here among us. The God of Israel is our fortress. Now, I want to encourage you, like I mentioned just a moment ago, to read that maybe again, just a little bit slower, to think about it, ponder it. What is happening in this chapter? Well, really what we see is God is kind of like puffing up His chest and reminding us of His power, His majesty, His sovereignty, who He is. He's talking about wars and just all the different things that happen in our world, and yet He is victorious. I want to point out 2 different verses. First of all, verse 1. It says, God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. Maybe depending on what version you're reading today, maybe it says an ever-present help in times of need. And I want you to think about, what does that mean to you? It says that God is always ready to help us when we're in trouble. He's an ever-present help in times of need. Is that what your relationship with God is like? When you're going through a hard time, when you're facing trouble or you need help, is God the first person that you go to? Do you stand on the fact that He is there, that He is good, that He is with you? Or does God just kind of follow you around like a shadow? Like He's there, but you know He's somewhere, but you're not engaging with Him. You're not interacting with Him. God is reminding us here that He is with us. That no matter what we face, no matter what trials, troubles, hardship, joys, sadness, whatever we face in a given day, God is right there and wants to engage with us. He wants you to talk to Him about your day. He wants you to include Him in what's going on. He wants you to seek Him out for help and wisdom and discernment. Don't miss out on those opportunities today. Whatever you're facing, go to God. And as you go to God, you can go to God with confidence. Look at what it said in verse 10. This is a pretty famous verse that maybe you've heard before. It says, be still and know that I am God. You see, whatever troubles you're facing, no matter how big they seem, God is reminding us that we can be still. What is that? There's a calmness, a peace, a confidence that comes over us when we know that God is in control. I know several years ago, my daughter, when she was really little, at our first house way back in Minnesota, I remember I was in the other room and I turned the vacuum cleaner on and the big noise, and she was just a toddler at the time, and she was in the other room and she was playing on the floor, and suddenly hearing that noise, and as this vacuum comes closer to her, she screamed and started sobbing and freaked out. And then I felt bad because I'd started the vacuum and scared her. But you know what happened? Something so interesting. I needed to vacuum. I couldn't really wait. And so I went over and I picked her up. And as soon as I picked her up and she was in my arms, she calmed down. And then holding her right here, I turned the vacuum back on and I started vacuuming. And she didn't even whimper. It was incredible. And the Lord spoke to my heart and he said, Sarah, I don't always eliminate hardship from your life, but when you allow me to embrace you, to hold you, as we go through this together, you realize that there's no fear. You realize that there's no danger when you're in my arms. And so I want to encourage you today that no matter what you're facing, are you allowing God, your ever-present help in times of need? Are you accessing that power? And are you also able to find a calm and a peace and a comfort and a security and a confidence in knowing that He is our God? Hey, I want to thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for another Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth.